Sandra looked very haggard, back from his trip to time, of course. Chapter 3, Time Traveler's Story. Everybody turned toward the door. There stood the time traveler in a terrible state. His dusty coat had a green smear down the sleeves. His hair looked gray or filmy. Then he had remembered it, but he couldn't tell if the color had changed or if it was just the effect of dust. The time traveler's face looked pale as a ghost. His chin had a half-healed cut on it, and his whole expression was haggard and drawn, as if he'd undergone some intense suffering. He hesitated in the doorway for a minute, as though dazzled by the light. Oh. Then he slowly... Clark fills the time traveler's glass. Then he slowly and painfully limped into the room and sat down. Without saying a word, he motioned toward the wine. Clark filled a glass of champagne and pushed it toward him. Said Clark. Clark filled a glass of champagne and pushed it toward him. The time traveler gulped it down, and it seemed to do him good, for he looked around the table at his friends, and the ghost of his old familiar smile flickered across his face. "What on earth have you been up to, man?" asked the doctor. "Don't let me disturb you," the time traveler said haltingly. He held the glass out for a refill, which he drained. "That's good," he said. His eyes grew brighter, and the color began to return to his cheeks. "I'm going to wash and dress," he said slowly. "Then I'll come down and try to explain what happened. Save me some of that mutton. I'm starving for a bit of meat." He put down his glass and walked toward the door that led to the staircase. Again, Philby. Again, Philby noticed his lameness and the soft padding sound of his footsteps. There was nothing on them but a pair of tattered socks, and they were blood-stained. Philby felt like following him to see if he if he needed help. Then he remembered how his friend hated to have anyone fuss over him, so he forced himself to return his attention to the dinner table. "What's up?" asked Bryce. "Has he been playing the amateur beggar? I don't get it." "I have a feeling it's got something to do with the time machine," said Philby, and he went on to complete Manning's account of the week's meeting. New guests' faces showed their complete disbelief of the story of a time traveler. "Time traveler," said Clark. "Did you see that dust on him? Could someone get that way by exploring a scientific theory?" Interpreting eyewitness reports. Bryce, the writer, jumped in laughingly. "Aren't there any clothes brushes in the future?" And now for the exclusive eyewitness report from our special correspondents in the day after tomorrow, announced Clark, the editor, and he made a trumpet sound. Oh, that's Clark. Okay, that over there must be Bryce. Just about everybody began to laugh hysterically at the wild idea. At this point, the time traveler returned dressed in ordinary clothes. Of the changes that had so startled his guests earlier, nothing remained but his haggard look. Listen, said Clark hilariously. These fellows said you've been traveling into the middle of next week. How about telling us about your adventures? The time traveler sat down silently and smiled in no way. Where's my muddin? He asked finally. What about your story? Asked Bryce. You can wait for that, time traveler. Ready to begin his story. I want something to eat. I won't say a word until I get some Peptone into my arteries. Just one word, begged Philby. Have you been time traveling? Yes, he answered with his mouth full. The rest of the dinner was extremely uncomfortable. No one said anything until the time traveler finally pushed his plate away. I guess I should apologize, he said. I was simply starving. I've had a most amazing time. He reached for a cigar and cut the end. Let's go into the smoking room. It's too long a story to tell over greasy plates. He rang the bell for the servants to start clearing the table, then led the way to the adjoining room. Did you tell them about my machine? He asked Philby, indicating the new guests. Philby nodded. I tried to. But such a thing is an impossibility, cried Clark. Please, no interruption. I can't argue tonight, said the time traveler. I don't mind telling you the story, but I'm in no shape to argue. I'll tell you what happened to me, but please, no interruptions. No one spoke. I was in my lab this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Since then, I've lived 8 such days as no human being has ever lived before. 8 days in one? How can that be? Asked Bryce. Look, I deeply want to tell the story, even though I know most of it will sound like I'm lying. But it's true. Every word of it. Is it agreed that there will be no interruptions? Agreed, echoed the guests. Time traveler settled back in his chair like a wearied old man. A circle of light from a little lamp shone on his white, sincere face. His voice was filled with emotion as he began to speak. Chapter 4. Landing in the year 802,701 AD. His story in his very own words. Most of the listeners were in the shadow, for the candles in the smoky room had not been lit. The small lamp shone on only the speaker's earnest face on the writer's puzzled face, and on the lower legs support of the editor. As time traveler began talking, the men glanced at each other every now and then. After a while, though, they stopped doing that, and looked only at the time traveler's face. This, then, is his story, in these, his very own words. I felt like a man about to... As it got ready to test my machine. It was 10 o'clock this very morning, right down the hall in my lab. I gave the machine one last tap, tried all the screws again, and put one more drop of oil